of 2 instructional videos for the projects in the Fall Art Box purchased at the Ohio Craft Museum. And this particular video will give you instruction in how to create this fun little fall art scene. You will be learning 3 different techniques: weaving, sculpting, and painting. And in your box, you will find a piece of air-dry clay in a plastic bag, a variety of yarns, and a sturdy cardboard plate. What items you'll need from home: you will need either washable markers or tempera paint or watercolor paint, whatever you have, a brush, and a container for water. And I've also created this second little scene just to give you an idea of what you can create today. Let's get started on the project. Okay, so I have my air dry clay, and I thought I would just share a few little tips in how to use this and different things that you can make from it. You can see I've got a little house with some little shrubs and a couple trees that I've already I did yesterday, and it dried overnight. So one thing you want to keep in mind when you're using the air dry clay is to really make sure your connections are good. Otherwise, you'll probably, things will fall apart. Here on my tree, you can see my trunk of my tree has come away from the rest of the tree, but I can glue that in place, so it's not really a big issue, but I should have made that connection just a little bit stronger. So to make the trunk of the tree, I just kind of rolled out a little bit of clay, and I am just going to flatten it a bit and shape it like that. For the top of the tree, I took a little bit of clay, and then I just rolled some little balls of clay and anchored that onto the trunk. Again, this time I'm going to do it a little bit better than I did the last time. Your tree could simply look like that, but I've got a few more little balls of clay that I'm going to add, and I'm going to really push those in really well. Okay, and you can make your tree as big or as little as you want. Just pushing these on top. So you could have a tree like this. So whatever surface you're working on, you have to be kind of careful when you're prying that off. You could also work on a piece of wax paper or some foil or whatever, and then just kind of, I had a piece of cardboard here that I let mine dry on. So you can just kind of place that on your cardboard, and then you've got a little place for it to dry overnight. Really for any of these things that I created, like if you see this little house, I'm just starting with clay, a piece of clay, and then shaping it into, a rectangle, square, whatever you want. And you don't have to do a house. You could do a castle. You could do, whatever your imagination allows. Just be creative and come up with your own little scene. Again, I'm just showing you something real simple, like a little house, and you'll find that you don't need a lot of this clay. It goes a long way. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't have enough clay, yeah, you probably do have enough clay. And then as far as, so I've really anchored those together pretty well. You can see I've overlapped it quite a bit. And I could set it now on this cardboard and kind of square up my house. And then as far as details on your house, you could take a pencil or, kind of look around, maybe a straw or a plastic fork or metal fork, a metal knife or something like that that you're allowed to use, and you can just really create your own little texture in your house. So that's really, really quite simple. Maybe I use the end of my pencil on an angle like this and create kind of shingles on my roof. So you can see how quickly you can add texture and create things. So of course this is air dry clay. It's going to need some time. On these little pieces here that I created, they dried overnight, so about 24 hours, and they were pretty good. They're pretty solid, and now they're ready to, they're ready to use some marker on and decorate. I just use regular marker when decorating my little tree and stuff. I might want to have a little blue roof on my house. If you want rather paint these, you can also use paint. I just happen to have markers, so that's what I used on my house. So you just have a little chimney here. I'm just gonna use my marker or whatever you decide to use to decorate your house. And if you let it dry a couple days or whatever, it's fine. Probably a little longer is always better. But you want to be careful after it dries, because if you drop it or whatever you might do with it, you can really, it might just simply fall apart. So you want to kind of be careful with that. All right. So now you've got an idea of, these might be a little big for the size of my plate, but maybe not. That might be just fine. I might want to use something a little bigger. So be creative and think up, some different little scenes that you want to create on your plate. Next, I'm going to start using marker, and I'm going to color in my scene. I kind of know that the hole in my plate and these little slits along the edge this is where I'm going to string my yarn, and I'm going to create my little sunset. I'm going to do a little fall sunset. So knowing that, I'm going to make this portion of my plate the sky, and this portion the ground. So I'm going to get started with my markers, and then maybe do a little blending with some water and paintbrush. All right. Well, I completed my plate, as you can see, and it's all dry now. I kind of set it out in the sun, and it's got a very nice painterly look. When you add the water to the watercolor markers, it can really make it look just like a watercolor. I also did another one here using some different colors, and on this particular plate I did use some watercolors that I have. So, experiment. If you have some watercolors to use at home or some tempera paint, you can use whatever you have. But simple markers work really nice too. All right? So I'm going to go with the oranges because I've decided that my scene is going to be more of a sunset scene. And I don't know about where you're at, but I'll tell you this fall, so far, it's not even fall yet, but we've got some fall kind of sunsets with nice bright oranges and pinks and things going on. So that's kind of what inspired me for this particular painting that I did. Also, in your kit, you got a variety of yarn, and I'm sure very different from what I have. All kits are a little bit different. So I decided to go with a solid, this orange, and those are going to be kind of the warp of the weaving that I'm going to do next. So we're going to set this up. It's very simple to do. If you look at your yarn, some of you, depending on which yarn you're choosing, you might already have at one end a little piece of tape that's wrapped around the end. If you don't have that, you have tape at home, masking tape, scotch tape, whatever you have, real easy just to kind of wrap that around one end and use that almost like your needle. You don't really need a needle to do any of this, but it just helps guide it through the hole. So you're going to start from the back, and you're going to pull the yarn through to the front, but you're going to leave a little tail out the back like this. And this is something that you're going to tie off when you're done with your warp. I also like to just put a little piece of tape right here, lightly kind of place it there. It'll keep it out of the way as you're stringing your plate here. So real simple, the little slits that you have, you're going to go through that slit there, and then with your end, you're gonna come back through, pull the yarn all the way. Make sure that you do, check and make sure you don't have a big loop in the back. And then go to the next slit and stick that yarn in there. You want these tight, but not super tight, where it's pulling your plate. Kind of misshapen your plate. You don't want to do that. And you're just going to continue around until you're complete with that. Okay, so I'm just going to go around. Okay, well, I've completed that. I'm now going to take that tape off the very beginning piece that I used, and I can cut off the extra here. If you do have extra yarn like I did, you can maybe use it as you're weaving your sun or rainbow or whatever you're creating on the front. Of course, I've given you certain colors of yarn. You might have some yarn or some other things that you can weave in at home to maybe add a little different look to yours. And now I'm going to start weaving through, going over under my warp threads that I've put in place. So I'm going to get my next piece of yarn, and you can put a piece of tape on the end of this if you'd like or not, but I'm just going to go start under, and then you're just going to go under, over until you get to the very end, this other side. Okay. And then you can pull that. I think I'm going to go a couple rows with this, so I'm not going to do the whole entire thing. Then when I come back under that one, and now I'm going opposite of the row before it. So I go under this one, now I'm going to go over. So I'm going over, under until I get back to the other side. Okay, and you don't have to do this super tight. You kind of want to keep it a little bit looser as far as when you're pulling. If you want to just kind of pack that down so you get a nice sunset going on, that works out well. And you're just going to keep going back and forth. Again, this is my third row I'm doing, and I'm going opposite the row in front of it. So I'm going under, over, under, over, until I get back to this other side. These little, like where you start and end with your yarn, you can simply cut it if you want, if you want a little dangle kind of going on, or you can just kind of wrap it, hide it somewhere in the back. Whatever you decide to do, it'll be fine. So I'm just gonna kind of push mine under there and hide it. Okay, like that. And then over here I can cut it shorter. So I'm just gonna keep doing that until I build this sun for about this big. And again, I'm going back under here and then altering, going over, under, over, under. If you just remember over, under, you'll be great. And then you can add different colors as you go and create different sunshine. All right? Okay, there you go. I've completed the weaving, and now I am going to glue down my little sculpture pieces that I created, the little trees and houses and things that I did. That'll be your next step. You can use just a regular Elmer's glue with that, or a hot glue gun, I think is even better. All right, so let's glue down everything.